open forum about mission and vision statement. We are really excited to share with you our process and then the ultimate result of that process. It's work that, as a group, we're really proud of. So I just want to remind people, we did a lot of talking. I see faces that were around in the fall when we were gathering input, but we crafted this process intentionally to be different than things that we've done in the past with respect to mission and vision. So the last time we tackled this process, it was a committee of about 30 people who approached it. Everybody who was on it sort of groans when you bring up that process because it was very challenging. If you've ever tried to write something with 30 other people, you will know it's a near impossible task. It's just a lot of hands to try to write something. But comparatively, also, very few voices with respect to our campus community. So 30 people sounds like a lot, but when you look at how many employees, students, community members we serve, it's really not that much in terms of input. So what we wanted to do this time was flip this on its head, ensure that we were getting lots of voices, as many as we possibly could, at the front end, and then have just a few hands working on developing the language. Part of this is also recognizing that whenever you have a small group, it is not going to be representative of our campus community. It's just not possible to have a committee of 5 to 8 people that's representative of the full diversity of our campus and also all of the employees that work here, etc. So our process, you'll see, was specifically designed to ensure we captured that input and in a much larger quantity than we had in the past, even though our committee is quite small. So just a reminder that when we are looking at mission and vision, we want mission to answer the question, what do we do? And we want it to do it in a clear, concise, and useful statement to us, something memorable that we can easily recite and state. And then vision, we want it to answer the question, what will we accomplish? And specifically, we want it to be something that's externally facing, not Triton will be a pillar of excellence. Like, we want it to be, what impact is Triton going to be having outwardly? So here's our subgroup. Our subgroup was, it's called a subgroup because it's taken from membership of College Council. So College Council, sort of the primary driver, it's the revision of the mission and vision is one of its goals for the year. And then this is a group of individuals that sit on the council. Really extraordinary group. I can just speak for their level of engagement was incredibly high in this very challenging work. I'm really just so proud of the quality and content of the work and discussion. So here's our timeline. We set our goal in July at the council retreat. In August, the subgroup from the council membership was formed. In October, September and October, we really focused on collecting that input. We have another slide shortly that delves into that a bit more. But we had a lot of opportunities for engagement. Then in November, it says subcommittee drafted statements, but really we started the work. And that work continued into the beginning of this semester. And then now we are at this last point here where we are releasing the statements to the community for discussion. That's what's happening now. So in terms of collecting input, of course, for those of you who know me, this will not be a surprise, but I'm completing a very robust report with all of the information captured and detailed, which will have all the dates and times, locations of every single event and opportunity we had. But this is a much briefer summary. So for faculty and staff, we have the corn roast, which was the sort of the kickoff event where we started to gather information from faculty and staff. We had multiple coffee and conversation opportunities that we marketed pretty heavily to our faculty and staff to come and engage. And then we also created an online submission form for people who may not have had the opportunity to come and talk to us in person. For students, we also collected information at the corn roast. We had different prompting questions for them to try to solicit some really good input from them. We had our coffee and conversation events, specifically one where we had a pretty big student turnout, and then we had a specific student-focused event as well. And then finally, our community, we gathered input from them at the Fall Family Fun Fest. We had a table, and we got a good amount of input there, and then also from our community advisory committee. So in total, we had 508 comments. We had 266 pertaining to our mission statement and 242 pertaining to our vision. And for faculty and staff, at least, our guiding questions were those two that I started. What does Triton do, and what will Triton accomplish? So that's a lot of information when you just have comments. And we created a large spreadsheet that captured all that information, and then we started to sort through it by taking a pretty comprehensive organizational approach. So we started by looking at our each comment and assigning topic tags, so identifying the major topics that were being hit on within the comment. And then we identified the most commonly discussed topics by each stakeholder group. So we were able to take a look at, okay, this is holistically what came to the top, but specifically what are faculty and staff saying, specifically what are students saying, and what are our community saying, because different things rose to the top for those groups. We then created umbrella categories. So that was still a lot of information, so we took all those most commonly discussed topics and started to group things together that had commonalities. And we created about 6 umbrella categories, first for mission and then for vision. Then we noticed, once we did that there were a lot of connections between what was being talked about in mission and what was being talked about in vision. It was a little bit hard to completely separate them and have a robust conversation. So we created a visual concept map, and doing that allowed us to really consolidate everything into 6 major concepts that came forward. While we were having this discussion, we also talked about institutional data and district demographics coming from our 2018 Triton Fact Book. And then we also talked about the fact that we have some external information that's coming forward soon. We don't have it yet, but we anticipate an environmental scan and a community needs survey that will inform the development of our strategic plan. And our strategic plan is what's going to connect the mission to the vision. It's what takes us from what we do to what we will accomplish. So here we are. This was our visual concept map. Once we had all of those considerations together, you can see how we started to group things and see the connectivity between them. So the 6 major themes: educate, opportunity, community, connection, diversity, and value. Gonna pitch it over to Audrey.
So we wanted to provide some insight as to our subgroups conversations around the words diversity, equity, and inclusion. These 3 words are sometimes used interchangeably, but actually have very different definitions. The definitions below them, those aren't definitions that we came up with. They're definitions that other institutions have used and defined those terms as, and experts who study this particular topic. So diversity, a variety of social and cultural characteristics among individuals. So the different types of people that make up a diverse group. Equity, I think this is a really great graphic that really kind of highlights exactly what equity is. It ensures everyone has access to the same opportunities. It recognizes the advantages and barriers that exist in the fact that not all people start at the same point. And inclusion. So inclusion is more of the action word. It embraces differences. It offers respect and words and actions for all people. Creates an environment in which every individual feels welcomed and valued. And one thing that I thought was really insightful about this word is an inclusive group is by definition diverse, but a diverse group is not necessarily inclusive. Inclusivity is the work that goes into having a diverse environment be heard and listened to and feel welcomed, and then also ensuring equity for that diverse group. So these are just a couple other definitions of the word inclusion from different higher education institutions. And one of the themes that we see in a lot of definitions of the word inclusion are respect, value, and welcome. And a lot of these words are, or these three words are also words that came up in the findings of people describing the institution, of aspirations of what kind of institution we would like Triton to be, a place that is welcoming, that respects everybody, that is that values the individuals, that values the people that make up the community. And so getting to the heart of inclusion for us, if you can go to the next slide. All concepts are important to Triton in the draft statements. We consider all of these words, and not just what they mean today, but also how their definition might evolve, right? How we might use them today versus how they might become better known a few years from now. And it's difficult for us to just say diversity or diverse in the statement, because that's a descriptive word. It describes what our community is by nature of where we work or where the students go to school or the community that Triton serves. It is by definition a diverse environment. And equity and inclusion apply more action on behalf of the college in service to that diverse group. So we just wanted to give some insight into that, into those discussions behind those words.
So this is all set in stone already. There's no discussion about any of these things. This is already decided, right?
Oh, in terms of the actual language of the statements.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today, our goal with the forum today is to give us some processing time. So we're going to put forward what the statements are, and we're not editing, right? So, but what we want to get a sense of is leading the discussion around how might these statements resonate with you in your work? Like, do you see resonance of these statements in your work? And then get impressions from the community around those substantive discussions. So what we're really avoiding is like taking a pen to the statement type of approach, but rather really focusing our conversation around the substantive content of what's coming forward. So yeah, that's where we're going today.
So some of the guiding principles the subcommittee kept in mind while we did draft these statements. We kept this question central in mind. So the mission is really about what do we do. The mission is about what will we accomplish. So we've got the present and the future in mind here. Second, we reflected the institutional core. So we had over 500 statements. It's impossible to, nor would it be advisable to jam all of those sentiments and topics into a single statement, but we really wanted to get at the heart of what we're about, and then we can, those things are all important and we'll approach them through other means, such as the strategic plan. Second, third, simple, honest statements. Clarity is key, steer clear of slogans. This was something I personally struggled with. I tried to be too clever, but it's really not about having a cute tagline. It's about something that's memorable and valuable and really speaks to who we are as an institution. Finally, collaboration. Pamela did a great job of creating a space where the committee was allowed to be critical but not judgmental, where we were all really attacking the work at hand and not being precious about our own writing, and really just having that singular goal in mind of really reflecting what the institution has said to us and where we need to move forward. So when we were looking at the mission statement, we wanted to be clear, concise, and useful, or first and foremost, and we kept concepts such as connection, education, and opportunity in mind as far as umbrella concepts. And finally, just what do we do in creating a mission statement? So without further ado, it is award season, and we wanted to have a fun reveal for you guys. So at this time, if you can elect someone at your table to pick the top envelope, you will be able to see the mission statement.
It says mission on the front, but yeah, it's just right here. Right? Make sure it says mission and not vision on the front. Just double check. It's a mission statement. All right.
If you could join a table too, if you are not already part of a table.
Ooh.
Valuing read it.
Educating our
Valuing the individual.
All right.
So this is it, 6 words.
So we'll let everybody sort of like let that simmer a little bit. All right, so let's go
Okay, so
ahead.
moving on to vision. Again, we wanted to make something clear, concise, but this time aspirational. So what are some of those big ideas? How can we be outwardly focused, looking at what we can do for our community, and really focusing here on opportunity and community as key umbrella concepts. And then finally, what will we accomplish? So where are we going to set some aspirational goals that we can all be motivated to come to work every day and achieve and make everything better? So without further ado, please now open.
You can open your
second
vision
envelope.
card.
A community with equitable opportunity for growth and success.
All right,
There we have it.
there is our vision.
9 words.
So again, a big focus here, was, as Hillary had mentioned, making sure that this isn't a Triton will be statement, but what impact is Triton going to have externally? Okay, so Terry's great question sort of leads into this. So the way we want to guide our conversation about these statements now is, I'll tell you, it was, obviously you saw, we did a lot of slides about everything that led up to those statements. A lot of processing went into it. And in terms of the words, just a lot of discussion around every single word. And so that was with a group of, 8 people total. So if we try to do that in a room like this, it won't actually lead to productive conversation about the statements themselves. So we want to avoid editing today. That is not what we want to engage in, because we don't think we'll actually produce a productive conversation. And instead, we want to be talking about the substantive content. And we think the best way to do that is to use some guiding questions about that helps frame, does this resonate with you, right? So for the mission statement, valuing the individual, educating our community. First, how do you see your work reflected in this statement? And then secondly, what are examples of actions we can take to value individuals in our work? Keeping in mind that this is one tentpole for our next strategic plan and any other institutional plans we may develop. Then our vision, a community with equitable opportunity for growth and success. Guiding questions, what are fast and easily implemented things we might be able to do or make changes to move towards this vision? And then secondly, what are big picture changes Triton should consider to achieve this vision? That's the second tentpole of our next strategic plan. So this second question is actually sort of an introductory level conversation moving us into development of our next strategic plan. This is sort of like pre-planning, brainstorming ideas opportunity, right? So think about that. How would we institutionally move in this direction? So with that, we have some Post-it notes there. What we've done is we've written the mission statement here with those 2 questions, the vision statement here. If as you're talking with your group over this, which we find really helpful in terms of processing the statements and how they apply to us as an institution, jot your thoughts down on the Post-it note, your answers to these questions, and stick them up here. And then we can sort of collect and start to see visually what different people are saying in response to these things. So with that, I would like to just invite you as a table to kind of dive into those questions. I'll pass them around as well. And then we're here if you have questions.
Oh, we'll have to.
I'm looking here.
Participation.
Sure. The car engine's already running, right?
Emma, can you back up to
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
slide?
Yeah.
Well, to me, but if it's equity,
Very nice.
just every person in this room care about that. So, everything to the same access, the same opportunities, to present those opportunities. Well,
Yeah, she can stop it. Do you want to run into her?
So I have a question. I'll try to know that. So how that paper and if it demonstrates. Like how, because if this doesn't. And
Oh, you know, the bumper's really big.
I think that's what's.
Yeah. Where people are, we get them to where they need to be. To a certain level. Sometimes we can't.
So.
That's what
How
they'll
to
look
do
at.
what's the source? That's not the college work.
No, that would be the next step. Also, our step right now.
Oh, no. That is it.
I do not want someone to stand cheating people out.
In my work, that means.
Some,
Of course.
Well, I think we take that to the
I react bad.
So that was.
Influence. I don't.